The sky over Earth darkened as the Galactic Empire's fleet descended, blotting out the sun with their massive, menacing ships. Beams of energy shot out as a demonstration of power, carving harmless patterns into the oceans and lands below. Their message was clear: resistance was futile. "This is Overseer Valric of the Unified Galactic Empire," boomed a voice from their orbital relay, translated into dozens of human languages simultaneously. "Your primitive world has been selected for integration. Comply, and you may retain some semblance of autonomy. Resist, and your quaint civilization will be reduced to ash." In a flash of arrogance, the aliens broadcast footage of Earth's military arsenal, tanks, rifles, and aging artillery pieces, overlaying it with mocking commentary. "What quaint artifacts," Valric sneered. "Your relics will make excellent museum exhibits once your species learns its place." Beneath the surface bravado, Earth's leaders scrambled. Deep in a secure command bunker, military brass reviewed the invaders' capabilities, grimly noting the plasma cannons, personal energy shields, and near-invulnerable drones. Yet amidst the tension, an older officer, Colonel Rourke, leaned back in his chair and lit a cigar, an unshaken calm about him. "They're too damn confident," Rourke said, pointing to the holographic map showing the aliens' troop movements. "You don't march like that unless you think nothing can touch you." General Imani, the younger strategist in charge, frowned. "Colonel, their tech is centuries ahead of ours. Our air defenses are paper against those shields, and energy-based countermeasures are a waste. What's your point?" Rourke leaned forward, tapping the hologram's grid over a forested region in Europe. "Here's the point: they think we'll fight on their terms. We won't. We don't need shiny tech, we need smart tactics. And that's where the old dogs come in." Imani raised an eyebrow. "Old dogs?" "Mortars," Rourke said, his grin almost defiant. "We've got crates of them collecting dust in depots. Simple. Effective. And these high-end mighty aliens won't see them coming." Imani scoffed. "Mortars? Against this?" She gestured at the overwhelming power displayed on the holograms. "Energy shields are great against energy weapons," Rourke replied, puffing smoke into the air. "But physics? Explosives? Gravity? That's a different story. Let me show you something, General." Moments later, Rourke led Imani to a live-fire demonstration. Soldiers hauled out a battered mortar launcher and lobbed a few shells at a mock target. The resulting concussive blast left a deep crater, the simplicity of its devastation impossible to deny. Imani stood silently, weighing her options. Finally, she nodded. "Fine. But if this fails, it's your head, Rourke." Across the planet, preparations began in earnest. While the Empire continued its descent, establishing bases and spreading its control, human troops fortified key areas. In the chosen forested region, Rourke personally supervised the deployment of mortars, ensuring precise placement and training soldiers to exploit every advantage of terrain and surprise. Meanwhile, the Galactic Force's arrogance only deepened. In a broadcast intercepted by Earth's intelligence, Valric dismissed human resistance entirely. "They deploy in outdated formations with weapons from an era long past. This will not even be a conquest. It is pest control." The comment spread like wildfire among the human ranks. It infuriated some but steeled the resolve of others. Soldiers painted sarcastic slogans on their mortar shells: "Pest spray, relic power, and antiquities revenge." As alien ground forces marched into human-held territories, their disdain for Earth's defenses became apparent. Scouts reported the presence of rudimentary trenches and scattered artillery positions, prompting mocking laughter in the alien command. "They dig holes in the ground," an alien lieutenant reported. "Primitive even by pre-spacefaring standards." Valric waved dismissively. "Let them cling to their scraps. Deploy the first wave. Let us remind them what true power looks like." Unbeknownst to Valric, Rourke's predictions had already begun to play out. Hidden deep in the forest, mortars were primed and ready. Soldiers waited in tense silence, listening as the alien troops approached with their usual confidence. This was Earth's chance to strike back, not with superior technology, but with the cunning and resourcefulness the Galactic Empire had foolishly overlooked. The air in the forest was heavy with tension, the quiet broken only by the faint hum of alien hovercrafts and the rhythmic march of their biomechanical soldiers. Human troops lay hidden, their mortar teams crouched low and waiting for the signal. Each soldier's face bore a mix of fear and determination. For most, this was their first encounter with the invaders, but the veterans among them carried a grim focus. They had been told the plan would work, that the simplicity of their weapons would catch the aliens off guard. The alien forces moved with the confidence of conquerors. They entered the dense forest in tight formations, shield projectors shimmering faintly as they advanced. The arrogance was palpable, they didn't even attempt to scout for traps. Why would they? To them, humans were an annoyance, not a threat. Their energy weapons glowed softly, and their drones floated overhead, scanning lazily for any sign of resistance. The first mortar shell screamed through the air before the aliens even realized they were under attack. It arced high above the trees before slamming into the center of their formation. The explosion was deafening, tearing through their ranks with brutal force. The shimmering shields flickered and collapsed under the concussive impact, revealing the vulnerable troops beneath. Chaos erupted immediately. Alien soldiers scattered, their rigid formation breaking apart as they struggled to understand what had hit them. Another shell landed, then another, each one precise and devastating. Entire squads were obliterated, their advanced armor useless against the shrapnel and force of the blasts. The alien commanders shouted orders in their guttural language, trying to regain control. Drones were dispatched to locate the source of the attack, but the human mortar teams had already moved to new positions, firing again before the drones could lock onto them. The forest amplified the humans' advantage, the dense canopy provided cover, and the uneven terrain made it nearly impossible for the aliens to deploy their vehicles effectively. As the battle raged, it became clear that the aliens were completely unprepared for this kind of warfare. Their shields, designed to deflect energy blasts and plasma-based attacks, were useless against the raw, physical destruction of high-explosive shells. The drones, while effective in open terrain, struggled to navigate the thick forest, crashing into trees or becoming easy targets for camouflaged human snipers. The invaders attempted to regroup, deploying a squadron of their biomechanical troopers, towering constructs of metal and flesh, armed with energy cannons. These monstrosities had been unstoppable in earlier skirmishes, shrugging off energy-based attacks as if they were nothing. But when a coordinated barrage of mortar fire rained down on their position, even they were reduced to mangled wreckage. The alien retreat began almost as quickly as the battle had started. Soldiers who had once marched with unshakable confidence now scrambled to escape the relentless bombardment. Shouts of panic echoed through the forest as they abandoned their dead and wounded, retreating to their drop ships. From his concealed position, Sergeant Hale watched the chaos unfold, his hands steady as he reloaded another mortar round. "Relics, huh," he muttered, a grim smile crossing his face. The other soldiers in his team let out quiet cheers, but their celebration was brief. They knew this was only the beginning. By the time the last mortar shell fell silent, the forest was littered with the wreckage of alien tech and the bodies of their troops. The humans emerged cautiously from their hiding places, scanning for any remaining threats. What they found instead was the unmistakable proof of their victory. For all their advanced technology, the Galactic Empire had been undone by a weapon that hadn't changed in decades. Word of the victory spread quickly. Reports of the battle reached command centers across the globe, sparking a newfound sense of hope among the human resistance. Analysts pored over the results, marveling at how effectively the mortars had exploited the aliens' weaknesses. The victory wasn't just a tactical success, it was a psychological one. On the other side, the Galactic Empire was in shock. Reports of the defeat reached their orbital command ships, where Overseer Valric sat in stunned silence. His soldiers, the pride of the Empire, had been routed by primitive weapons in a backwater forest. It was unthinkable. How? Valric demanded, slamming his clawed hand onto the control panel. How did they penetrate our shields? Preliminary analysis suggests kinetic impact, one of his subordinates stammered. The humans are using explosive projectiles that bypass our energy-based defenses. Their technology is obsolete, Valric roared. How does something so outdated defeat us? There was no answer, only silence. In the background, reports of the human counterattack continued to stream in, each one more damning than the last. The Empire's forces had underestimated their enemy, and now they were paying the price. For the humans, this was more than just a battle, it was proof that they could fight back. The aliens weren't invincible, and Earth wasn't helpless. As the sun set over the forest, the soldiers gathered around their battered mortars, sharing quiet words of triumph. The war was far from over, but for the first time, they believed they could win. News of the humans' victory in the forest spread faster than anyone anticipated. Across Earth, resistance movements, thought to be little more than desperate holdouts, began organizing with renewed vigor. Soldiers and civilians alike rallied to the cause, buoyed by the realization that the Galactic Empire wasn't invincible. In every corner of the planet, the mortars became a symbol of defiance, emblazoned on posters, painted onto helmets, and featured in rallying cries. At military command centers, engineers and tacticians worked tirelessly to refine their strategies. The mortars were modified with updated targeting systems and payloads designed to inflict maximum damage on alien shields and armor. Crews drilled relentlessly, perfecting their accuracy and mobility to stay one step ahead of the Empire's retaliation. New tactics emerged, blending the old with the new: precision strikes with mortars, guerrilla ambushes, and limited use of scavenged alien technology. The humans were learning fast, turning the invaders' strengths into weaknesses. Meanwhile, the Empire's confidence was unraveling. On their command ships in orbit, alien officers bickered over how to respond. Overseer Valric's pride had turned to frustration, his booming declarations of superiority replaced with clipped, angry orders. Reports from the front painted a grim picture: Earth's resistance was growing stronger, their tactics more sophisticated. They exploit our blind spots, one officer admitted during a tense briefing. Their attacks are unpredictable. Our shields are designed for energy discharges, not ancient explosives. Valric snapped. We are the Galactic Empire. How can they wield such toys against us and win? There was no answer. The silence in the room spoke volumes, the weight of their underestimation pressing down like a physical force. On the ground, the psychological tide was turning. Viral footage of alien soldiers fleeing from mortar strikes flooded the global networks, accompanied by memes and propaganda mocking the Empire's failures. Alien shields were dubbed bubble-wrap defense, and their retreating soldiers were nicknamed the running elite. Even within the Empire's ranks, the cracks were beginning to show. Morale plummeted as soldiers questioned their leadership and their once unquestioned technological superiority. The humans, however, didn't stop at ridicule. They exploited the growing fractures with calculated precision. Leaflets and intercepted broadcasts taunted the aliens, claiming Earth's relics were unstoppable. Hackers breached alien communication systems, spreading doctored images of Earth's victories to other planets under the Empire's rule. The strategy wasn't just to demoralize the invaders, it was to humiliate them on a galactic scale. In one particularly bold move, human operatives hacked a live broadcast from Valric himself. Just as he began addressing his troops, the screen shifted to a montage of mortar strikes set to triumphant music, ending with a slogan: *simple tools. Complex victories. The broadcast was cut almost immediately, but the damage was done. Laughter rippled through human forces and, more worryingly for Valric, among some of his own troops. This psychological warfare extended to the battlefield. In one skirmish near a ruined city, human soldiers deliberately fired their mortars in irregular patterns, making the aliens believe they were surrounded. Panic set in as commanders issued conflicting orders, and their troops became easy targets. The mortars themselves became infamous among the aliens, a sound of incoming doom they could neither counter nor predict. Back in orbit, the Empire's leadership was unraveling. Valric convened another emergency council, demanding answers. "We must deploy heavier forces," one general argued. "Orbital strikes, mechanized legions, crush them before they adapt further." "That's what we've been trying," another countered. "Their adaptability outpaces our superiority. Every new measure we take, they find a way to exploit it. The humans are relentless." Valric's rage boiled over. "Then out-relent them. Deploy the next wave of drones. Scour their strongholds. I don't care if we raise their forests to ash, break them." But even as Valric issued his commands, whispers of dissent spread among his officers. Some began to wonder if their overseer's pride had blinded him. Others feared the growing ridicule from other imperial worlds, where news of Earth's resistance was spreading. For the first time, the Galactic Empire, a symbol of unassailable power, was being mocked. For the humans, this shift was palpable. Every victory, no matter how small, was celebrated as a triumph of ingenuity over arrogance. Soldiers joked about their antique arsenal, and resistance leaders leaned into the narrative, portraying Earth as the scrappy underdog defying a galaxy-spanning bully. Despite their growing momentum, the humans knew the Empire wasn't finished. Surveillance drones captured images of massive troop movements, heavier artillery, and experimental weapons being deployed. The Empire was doubling down, preparing for a decisive blow to erase the humiliation they'd suffered. In response, human forces expanded their efforts. They began producing mortars in hidden factories, using salvaged materials to ensure they could sustain the fight. Engineers worked on hybridizing alien tech with human ingenuity, creating improvised countermeasures and new forms of ammunition. The human resistance was no longer just surviving, it was thriving. In one covert operation, human forces managed to infiltrate an alien supply depot, seizing advanced components and using them to upgrade their aging equipment. By the time the Empire launched their next offensive, the humans were more than ready. The resistance leaders held a final briefing before the coming clash. Colonel Rourke, now a figure of legend among the troops, addressed them with his usual gruff determination. "They thought they'd crush us in days," he said. "They called us relics. They laughed at our weapons. Well, they're not laughing now." The soldiers roared in agreement, their morale bolstered by every victory, every retreating alien force, every shattered myth of invincibility. In orbit, Valric watched the preparations for his next assault with a simmering mix of anger and desperation. He had gambled his reputation on this conquest, and now it was slipping away. As his fleet prepared for one final push, he couldn't shake the nagging feeling that Earth had become more than just a battlefield. It was a symbol of everything the Empire had underestimated, and a warning of what could happen if they failed. For Earth, the stakes had never been higher. For the Empire, the humiliation was unbearable. And for both, the coming battle would determine the fate of the conflict, and the legacy of a war where simple tools had undone untouchable arrogance. The final confrontation had arrived. The Galactic Empire, once so confident in its power, had been backed into a corner. Its forces, now vastly outnumbered by the human resistance, prepared for one last, desperate attempt to crush Earth's defiance. Valric, his once unshakable confidence shattered, stood at the helm of his flagship, staring out into the vast expanse of space, haunted by the prospect of defeat. His fleet had been battered by human ingenuity, and despite his best efforts, the humans had adapted faster than he could have imagined. The mortars, once dismissed as an ancient relic of warfare, had become a nightmare of precision and destruction. His soldiers had fled before them, leaving behind smoldering wreckage. And now, Earth was ready for the final stand. On the ground, Colonel Rourke and the other human commanders readied their forces for the showdown. Earth's defenses were a patchwork of old and new, with mortars being the centerpiece of their strategy. In addition to the advanced ammunition that had been scavenged from the Empire's wreckage, human engineers had modified the old weapons with alien tech, enhancing their range and firepower. They had learned from the Empire's mistakes, and they intended to make sure the invaders felt every ounce of that experience. The battlefield was set in a vast valley, surrounded by jagged mountains, where the Empire's massive forces were gathering. The terrain had been carefully selected by the humans, a place where the aliens' technological superiority would be neutralized. The humans had spent days preparing traps, laying mines, and positioning their mortars in hidden pockets. It was a landscape that favored stealth, cunning, and deception, exactly the elements that had allowed them to survive for so long. As the Empire's ground forces moved into position, the air was thick with anticipation. The aliens deployed their biomechanical soldiers, massive armored behemoths that had once struck terror into Earth's defenders. These machines were nearly indestructible, impervious to anything short of a direct hit from their own plasma weapons. But the humans had learned. Mortars, now equipped with upgraded explosive charges, were prepared to target the weak points in these mechanical giants, joints, circuits, vulnerable sensors. And above all, the humans would aim for the one vulnerability the Empire had never considered, their arrogance. The first shots rang out. A series of high-velocity mortar shells tore through the air, striking with deadly accuracy. Alien armor cracked under the pressure of the explosions, their shield systems scrambling to adapt, failing in the face of human ingenuity. The giant biomechanical soldiers stumbled, their movements faltering as the ground beneath them shook with the impact of more incoming fire. Alien commanders scrambled to re-establish control, but the damage was already done. The first wave of their forces had been decimated before they could even engage fully. In retaliation, the Empire unleashed its full arsenal of weaponry. Plasma beams lashed out, cutting through the terrain, obliterating anything in their path. Drones buzzed overhead, releasing pulses of energy in a desperate attempt to locate and neutralize the human artillery. But the humans were already one step ahead. Their mortars, designed to be mobile and unpredictable, fired from multiple locations, making it nearly impossible for the aliens to pinpoint their positions. For every drone that fell, another took its place. But it wasn't just the mortars that turned the tide. Human soldiers had learned to use every trick at their disposal. Guerrilla tactics, ambushes, and traps sprang up across the battlefield. The Empire's forces, once so confident in their overwhelming technological superiority, were now bogged down in a fight they couldn't win. The human resistance had anticipated their every move. As the battle raged on, the humans pushed forward with relentless determination. A coordinated mortar barrage struck at the heart of the Empire's command center, where Valric himself had stationed himself to oversee the final assault. It wasn't just an attack on their command, it was a message. A symbol of everything the Galactic Empire had underestimated. Inside their command center, the alien officers scrambled to make sense of the chaos unfolding around them. The human tactics had outsmarted them at every turn. They were surrounded. Their once pristine technology lay in ruin, shattered by human ingenuity and old-world weaponry. Valric's face contorted in frustration as he watched his forces disintegrate. The once mighty Empire, reduced to dust and smoke, had no recourse but to retreat. And then, in one final, fateful moment, it happened. A single mortar shell, launched with perfect precision, struck the heart of the Empire's command center. The explosion was blinding, a flash of light that seemed to crack the very air. For a moment, there was nothing but the sound of shattering metal, the hum of dying technology, and the distant echoes of retreating alien forces. The shockwave reverberated across the battlefield, shaking the earth beneath the humans' feet. It was over. The Empire's command center was destroyed. Valric's ship, along with the remaining leadership, was incapacitated. The once feared Galactic Empire, reduced to a fractured force, began a hasty retreat from Earth. Their fleet, still hovering above the planet, scrambled to regroup, but the damage had been done. The humans had delivered a crushing blow to their invaders, one that would echo throughout the galaxy. The human resistance, battered but victorious, stood together in the aftermath. The Earth had endured, and the Empire's retreat was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The mortars, once derided as relics, had proven their worth in the most decisive of ways. In their final moments, they had struck at the heart of the Empire, bringing the invaders to their knees. In the wake of the battle, propaganda spread throughout the galaxy. Earth was no longer seen as a primitive world. Instead, humanity's ingenuity had become a symbol of hope. The term mortar defense entered the galactic lexicon as a reminder that even the most advanced civilization could be undone by the simplest of weapons, wielded with precision and purpose. Valric's defeat marked the beginning of a new era for Earth. The Galactic Empire, humiliated and fractured, withdrew from the planet, never to return. And humanity, once dismissed as a backwater species, became a legend among the stars, a beacon of hope for all those who had been oppressed and underestimated.